Good day, everyone. My name is Arthur Maxwell Powell II, and today we have my brother, my friend, Andrew Mott. Now, Andrew Mott is, well, first of all, Andrew Mott is a really good guy. Like he's like a really good friend, but very supportive, very intelligent, always willing to learn and willing to teach as well. He is a graduate of the one and only Weber
Weber State University.
Weber State University.
Yeah.
Weber State University. What city is it in again?
It's in Ogden, Utah, so it's just north of Salt Lake City. Probably about
Gotcha.
30 minutes north. Yeah.
All right. So in Ogden, Utah, 30 minutes away from Salt Lake City, and he graduated. He graduated with a
Mm-hmm.
degree in digital media. He's 23 years old. He what else? He's from Vegas, just like me. And Andrew was really like a big part of like my life, like especially when I was going to community college out there, and as
Mm-hmm.
I said, he was really like helping me throughout that time, and he's just been like a really great person. So welcome to the podcast, Andrew.
Hey, thank you so much, dude.
Thanks, man. So let's get all this serious stuff out the way because you're like a really good friend, and I want to talk about things like cereal. But
Mm-hmm.
but before we get to that, um, um, like I like words, and
Mm-hmm.
more than like definitions, I like uh kind of studying how people use words and like the connotation of the words.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you define the word protest?
Um, so I guess the word protest to me would mean, uh, in short, standing up for what you believe is right. Uh, However, I think a little bit of a deeper way to say it would be, um, expressing yourself or expressing your disagreement with something and taking action upon it.
Um,
So
so why is that important to do?
to protest,
Yes.
um, I mean, well, first of all, it's just one of our constitutional rights. And then secondly, like I personally believe that we can always create change if we so please. So, um, even as I think creating change in a big world is more scary for some people.
Mm.
Um, but I think we can create change in anything. Like for an example, I, at my work when I was still in college, I was an RA at the dorms, but like there was something going on that we didn't necessarily disagree, like we didn't agree with,
Mhm.
and so I kind of pushed back on my boss, and I kind of got some people to push back on my boss, and not being disrespectful or out of bounds with anything, but it created change, and I think that's
Yeah.
kind of like the reason why we do it. That's why it's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, like when you see like everything that's going on, like on TV as far as like protests or quote unquote riots, um,
Hmm.
what like comes to your mind? Like what do you think? What do you feel?
What do I feel? Well, I mean, the first thing that I think is Black Lives Matter. But the second, I think how I feel is it's a little bit of mixed emotions, I guess. You and I have talked about it before, but I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm sad, uh, and overall, I'm just displeased with the way that things have been handled in the past, and just kind of ultimately what everything's led up to. Um, because for some people, this was the turning point, but I think for a lot of us, it's been the turning point. Like this has been going on for a minute, and we're sick and tired of it. And so
Yeah.
uh, it's a lot of those emotions. It's some mixed emotions, but I would say, in all fairness, a lot of what I consume media wise is not mainstream media. I don't really consume CNN or your NBCs or your, those. I don't, I just don't really watch a lot of that. A lot of what I get is different sources from the internet, which I know can't always be reliable, but
Mhm.
I would say most of my news sources are coming from the internet.
Yeah. I know that like you haven't been to any protests, but have you had any friends of yours that been to any protests or people that like uh like firsthand or like direct friends that you know that have been protesting?
Yeah, I mean, I know some people who went to the protest out here in Salt Lake City, and it was I would say a very good protest. It was very, I would say, successful, um,
Mhm.
peaceful for the most part. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I know some people who went, but a lot of us, and I say us because I've been doing it as well. But I think a lot of what I've seen more of is people protesting or even standing side by side, with our brothers and sisters online, and kind of just allowing people to know that we're there, even if we're not out in the streets right now, because I know some people don't feel comfortable right now out there with corona, um, and just some of the extremists like Antifa and stuff like that that are out there causing violence. Some people don't feel comfortable out there, so they still
Right.
want to show their support online, and so I've been doing that, but I haven't been at protests, but I know people who have.
Right. um some people that I've interviewed in the past have been saying that um there are many ways to protest. I mean, you can protest in ways like just sharing information, retweeting, educating, learning is protesting really even. Like
Hmm.
because I think that we both know that like a lot of history that we learned in grade school, like the way that we learned it even is not necessarily like what really happened, you know?
Yeah.
So that's even like a form of protesting to the status quo of American education as far as grade school education. So
Yeah. I mean, even past grade school and up to high school, bro. Like, think of
yeah,
some
yeah,
of the stuff that we learned in our history classes in high school. Like, I didn't, and this is, I mean, this is me learning, but I didn't know about that until I got to college. That a lot of that was altered.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like it's crazy. I think, and like my next question goes into this, but I think that one of the biggest issues in America right now is it's underfunding and miseducation in our education system, and like not just like K through 8, but K through 12, bro. Like
Yeah.
kindergarten to 12th grade or pre-K to 12th grade.
Yeah.
Like we just need to revamp the whole education system. Because I think
Yeah.
that, well, this is not an interview with me, but like I think like the most important aspect of any like current civilization or any current government is education, and the reason why
Hmm.
because everybody gets their fundamentals from grade school education. Like everybody gets their basic understanding of everything from math, science, like whatever language like they speak in that country,
Hmm.
uh social sciences, humanities, art, like everybody gets their fundamental things. So if you're going to be an artist later on in life, you get your fundamentals from the art class that you're exposed to in school.
Hmm.
If you're going to be a mathematician, you get your first mathematic teaching from grade school. And I think that most importantly, like I believe that a lot of times well, not a lot of times, a lot of who we become is formed based upon who we know ourselves to be throughout history, like as far as like our like descendant, I mean our ancestors. and
Mm.
we learn like the correct understanding of everybody's ancestors. Like if we learn like correct Asian culture history, like Japanese culture, Philippine culture, Japanese culture. If we learn correct like African countries' cultures, like Cameroon, Ghana, Kenya, you know what I mean? And then if we learn like correct South American cultures like Brazil and Colombia, all those, and if we learn like correct Mexican culture, correct USA culture, I think that that would help the melting pot of America to be better leaders in the future.
Hmm.
What do you think about that? That's kind of like
As far as like the education system and stuff like that,
yeah,
I mean, I totally agree with you. I think my mom's a teacher, and so I'm 100% in and for funding education, and to quit defunding it, because it seems as if almost education has become one of the least important priorities in America, which is frustrating as a whole, uh, especially being somebody who strives to continue learning and pushed through a higher education. Um, I think to see that devalued is in a way degrading to the work that I've put in, and just that everybody puts in, and my mom's given 20 something years to teaching, and she continually gets devalued.
yeah.
It's frustrating. Yeah. And I totally agree. I think that they, not only do we need to fund it better, we need to do a better job with curriculums, and just making sure that we're teaching the whole truth and only the truth at all times.
Absolutely. I say absolutely a lot. Like, you know when you like watch yourself, you're like,
Hmm.
I say that word a lot. I'm making like a t-shirt that says absolutely.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
um, my mom is like a teacher too. You know what I mean? She's
Okay.
been teaching for a while as well. So I'm seeing it, man. Especially at like Title I schools, the least funded schools. It's a whole nother world, man. And it's sad that you have people in positions of power uh uh in some of these school districts that care more about what money that's put in their pocket than the education that's actually being taught to the children, and making sure that, like, the children have the necessary tools to to be successful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even from like I'm like an independent, that's my political party, but
Hmm.
like a
Yeah,
Republican,
I'm nonpartisan.
yeah, I'm not partisan as well. So or like unaffiliated, whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But my thing is, from like a Republican standpoint, um, Republicans really, really hang their hat on like being uh what's it called? Being competitive and like on like a on a international scale. And so for us to be more competitive, I think that, you know, put investing in our education for our children would literally like if we put as much money in our education as we put in like other areas like health or like military or something like other areas, then everything else would get better, number one. And number two, like we would be developing leaders that are more well-rounded. And number
Yeah.
three, people would be healthier in this country because we understand more about health. And number four, like our economy would like go up because we would have um smarter individuals, you know what I'm saying? Like people that would like be able to do a lot more with the education that's like provided to them. We've seen
Right.
other countries, especially like, Switzerland, like Greenland, where like they would put they already have free 4-year college. Like they're like, hey, like 4 years already paid for you. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Like they look at our high school, no, I'm sorry. They look at our 4-year colleges as if it's like high school, to them, because they're like, well, I'm going to university at 15. yada yada yada, and like I'm graduating university at like 18. You're like, whoa, wait, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think that not necessarily like starting college earlier, but just like revamping the curriculum and putting more funding in our education system would just be better
Yeah.
overall for like the whole economy. And I think that
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like the issues of police brutality, if we just taught American history correctly, more people will like understand why people are doing the things that they're doing. Um,
Yeah.
like if
Yeah. I actually had to educate my younger brother on
Mhm.
uh oh, now I'm spacing the name as soon as I'm talking about it, and now I look dumb. But the first beating in LA, there were riots and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that was Rodney King, right?
yes, the Rodney King riots. Yeah, I actually had
Mhm.
to educate my youngest brother on the Rodney King riots because um, he wasn't taught it in his school. And I actually said, um, I compared to the George Floyd uh, incident and
Yeah.
the protests and the riots and the things that are going on.
Mhm.
And I said, I see a lot of similarities to the Rodney King situation. However, this is on a national level and even a global level because
This
there
is-
are people in
yeah.
like UK and things like that are
Yes.
over like protesting. And I said like this is very similar and scary similar to the Rodney King riots.
Man, it's like I know that Joe Biden got a lot of flack for this, and I'm not in any way not endorsing Joe Biden. But Joe Biden
Mhm.
said that uh the the protests following George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's deaths and like Ahmaud Arbery's deaths, um, they're like bigger than the protests after Dr. King's assassination. Like when Dr. King was like assassinated, people don't know that like, and this is something like you will learn in, like an African American history class. But after
Mhm.
Malcolm X was assassinated, and after Dr. King Jr. was assassinated due to coin pro quo, which was instituted by the FBI with J. Edgar Hoover, like once they were assassinated, like literally, like across the whole nation, there was protests, riots, all this stuff. Like it's like, but like the crazy thing is, the way that like the media showed it was even worse than it is now. Like they will only show like bad stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like they will only show
Mhm.
like people yelling, screaming, like fighting, people getting beat up, things like that. Now, I mean, I think it's a little bit better, but like anyway, so it's crazy because like Joe Biden is kind of right because like it's it's not just like the country going up in protest, but it's on an international scale. I just saw a protest that was done in Germany. um, and I have a friend of mine from from middle school that I went to school with, and I kept in contact with her. And she's in Germany right now, and she was telling me how literally like in Germany there are tens of thousands of people that are protesting like systematic injustice and inequality right now.
Mhm.
Like I had read about it, and I was like, "Yo, there are legit like thousands of people out there protesting right now," and so you didn't see that ever before in like American history. Like to
Right.
like for it to be focused on like this issue is revolutionary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm like I'm exhausted. I'm tired, frustrated, sad, all that stuff. Um and but like I'm also excited though,
Yes.
because um I know that like for any lasting change to happen, there has to be a big revolution. With that's
Mhm.
with any civilization. We can go to like the Art of War, Three Kingdoms, 48 Laws of Power. Like we can read about Leopold, King James. Like
Mhm.
you can learn it like you can go to any civilization, and the way that any big change came was through a vast, a very like focused and large revolution. The fact that this is
Yeah.
global signifies that, you know, it signifies that I ought to be excited for there to be some
Yeah.
lasting change
Yeah.
for the treatment of African Americans in this country, and not just in this country but globally. But like specifically right now, we're talking about Black people in America. So
Mm.
so yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen some type of revolution and, stuff here in North America,
Mhm.
um, as well, like with the Civil War and like things like that as well. Like we've
Yeah.
done that as a nation before.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like if we go through like history, I mean, like you have. I mean, like there have been a lot of steps. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I don't want to focus too much on like the anomalies because
Hmm.
so like right now there's over 50% of African Americans that are living below the poverty line in their respective cities and towns. So I don't want to necessarily say that all of us are living in like mostly middle or upper class, because we're not. Um, but however, like we've made a lot of baby steps, you know what I'm saying? And the thing about these protests is really focused on police brutality. I'm putting just an emphasis on uh on just racism that's embedded in our institutions, which is kind of rooted in white supremacy. It's like rooted in white supremacy. It's like that's like my
Right.
that that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on like the root of the problem. I think that one of the effects, or um one of the like I don't yeah one of the effects of racism that's embedded in our culture and in our institutions is police brutality against African Americans. Um
Right.
and like the mistreatment of African Americans when it comes to police engagement. And it's not even police quote unquote engagement. It's just us. There's videos right now of just Black people just legit having conversations with the police, and they still use force against us across the nation.
Yeah.
It's unlike the South, but from like Washington State to Maine, you know. So I think that um, you know, I'm not really for like defunding the police necessarily, because defund the police has like a connotation that's like just take money from all police. But my thing is there have been amendments to like police forces, right? So like we've had uh so like you were talking about US history. So like we've had like the Civil War, we've had amendments passed, laws passed to help us. You know, we've had the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Housing Ownership Act that
Mm.
OBJ passed. Um, there's been Brown versus Board 1, 2, and 3. There's been there's been like the 13th Amendment, like the 15th Amendment. Like there's been like certain amendments that like have like helped, quote unquote, helped us along the way, you know. Um,
Mm.
but however, I think that like we we don't need to just like focus on just like just like the police brutality that like we see right in front of us, but we also have to see like what causes that and how
There's a bigger picture.
schools. Yeah, like the bigger picture. And so we've tried to reform police stations just like we've tried to reform the law. Like we've tried to reform the law with Brown versus Board, with the 13th, and with like the 15th, with Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act. But with like police stations and police departments and policing around the country, we've tried the same thing that we've tried to do with like the law in America. So like we've tried to reform policing, and because the reform hasn't worked, people are like, look, America is built on capitalism. So America, at the end of the day, like America cares about the economy and like the money. So if we take, so like people that like are saying like defund the police, they're saying, hey, we should take money from the police so that they understand that it's not working, like the reform is not working. So
Yeah.
to like get their attention, we have to take the money out because that's what they care about. It's
Yeah.
like a corporation. So like if I'm like a big corporation and like I give Billy like 10 million to reform their like police department, but there is no change. Matter of fact, it's getting worse. I should take my money out. That's like that's the
Yeah.
ideology of people that are saying defund the police. I'm not saying that we should abolish the police as a whole because there are people who have guns that we need to defend innocent people from, and there are people that just do bad things that we need to like arrest and things like that.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, we
like
need a
yeah,
justice system.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like it would, if we didn't have one, it would be insane.
Right. It would just be like anarchy. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
we need it. It's just that it's just very difficult to say how we fix it because at this point,
Yeah.
like people have been reforming it for like over 100 years, and we're like,
Mm,
yo, like the reform is not working.
right. Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know how. Honestly, like that's one thing that I don't know how we can how because we can't abolish it. Like my favorite person in all of history is Frederick Douglass, and he was an abolitionist. So like he believed in like abolishing things and rebuilding it. But we can't
Uh,
like just abolish. If we abolish like police in America, like literally, it would just be like we don't know what bad people would do. You know what I mean? Like it would be like what's that movie?
the Purge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'd be like the purge. It'd be like, okay, at 7 o'clock tonight, or well,
No more law enforcement. No rules.
no rules at 10 p.m. Boom. I'm like, whoa, I'm about to lock everything. I'm about to buy all the metal in the world, like on my walls. Oh no, I'm building a fort. I'm going to the attic. Like, no, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, like it
It
would
would
be
be crazy.
crazy, you know?
Yeah, and I can't even, same as you said, like you don't even know where to start on that. I don't either. Um, I couldn't tell you how to do that, but I'd hope we'd have officials that we could elect that have a better plan, and I hope that we do a better job electing those officials who have better plans.
Mhm.
Um, because we certainly haven't been doing a good enough job recently
Yeah.
as a nation. But this is it's take it how you will. But one thing that I had found very interesting yet slightly disturbing at the same time is that you can become a police officer in less time than it takes to become like a nail salon like stylist or like a cosmetologist. Like
What?
it takes longer to get a cosmetology license than it does to become a police officer.
See,
Which see, to me that is interesting, but it's disturbing because we are putting people out there with guns and a badge and basically a shield of government saying, there's our government supports police officers and they don't like to blame them for their wrongdoings. And so we're putting people out with 16 months of training to do so. And but it takes me 24 months to go learn how to style somebody's hair.
wow.
That's insane, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. One thing that I've talked about with my fiance before, but I said, if it takes me 4 years to become a professional in my degree field, like why should it not take a police officer years to become official.
Mm. That's interesting because uh, my question would be, in like kind of like to push back on that, I would say that how many people are really wanting to be police officers, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a good amount. I mean, we don't have a
Okay.
lack of police.
So, like, do we not have lack of police because because there's a demand, or because of like the ease of it, like 16 months?
Um, I think it's a combination of a few things. I think one, I'm gonna go into 3 points. I think one, it is fairly easy to become a police officer. I I mean, you have to attend a police academy,
Mhm.
but I have a friend who became a police officer, and he attended the police academy in the time that I was going through my senior year of college. He went in and out of the police academy in that time.
Wow.
And I didn't even finish a year of my senior year yet when he was in and out. And
Mm.
so that's fairly easy. Two, there is zero education that is required to be a police officer. You can
Wow.
have a high school diploma and come out and be a police officer in that short amount of time. And
Mhm.
then to the third point is, when I do get out of that academy, I am guaranteed fairly good, and some would say even great money, to have a living with no education, minimal training, and great money. To most people, that's a no-brainer. Let's just do it. And I would say that probably a majority, actually, I'm not going to say that. I would say that there are police officers out there who are doing it for that reason. They could
Mhm.
care less about the justice system or about what they have to do once they become a police officer, but they're there because they have a lack of education, no desire to go to college, no desire for a lengthy work training, and they want a paycheck.
Yeah. How how do we, well, if we were to like make it better again, or like reform it again, um what are some key elements that you would like to see in the change of the process to become a police officer?
Mm, well, I think like, first of all, I would love to see I would love to see police officers required to have a law degree.
A law degree.
Yes, because even if it's just like a 4-year law degree, or even if you
Okay.
got an associate's in like law, like,
Like 2 years.
yes, there needs to be some type of schooling and education on our law and our judicial system and everything that goes along with it, in order to understand what you are doing.
I like
And
that.
then along with that, I think we need to have a lengthier training process. I shouldn't, like, my buddy, and I'm not gonna say his name, but my buddy who was out
Mhm.
there
Mhm.
was like, he said, yeah, they showed up, they taught him how to shoot some guns, they pepper sprayed him so they knew what it felt like. They got attacked by one of the canine dogs so they would know what it felt like. And then at that point, they had to take one test, and if he passed the test, you're done.
Was this
And it's
in Utah or was this in Vegas?
Vegas.
In Vegas. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, you're telling me that they're learning how to shoot a weapon, being pepper sprayed, being attacked by a canine, and then they say, "Okay, we'll take this test, and if you pass it, we'll just put you on the street in a car."
Mm.
How? I mean, what? There's got to be some type of training. What am I doing when there's an armed gunman holding somebody hostage? How do I deal with that? I just got to go off of instinct. Well, they shot me or they taught me how to shoot this gun. I guess that's how I deal with it, right?
Hmm.
There's a lack of training, and I think
Yeah.
that they need to go through a more uh, situational training, and
Mm.
even more of a just like I said, educational. You need to understand the law and understand the way that things go, like in law enforcement.
I like that, man. I want to ask you this question before we get to like some fun stuff. Um,
Hmm.
I, I do want to preface it by saying that like I'm excited because like now I really understand like when people used to say like the children are the future because
Hmm.
we have a good understanding of like we have like that wisdom because we listen to like our parents and our elders, but we also have like innovative ideas and we're still curious, we're still learning and growing from history and from our current situation. um
Hmm.
and and because of those two together we can write a new narrative and a new future for our descendants. um
Hmm.
so my question is, what keeps you hopeful that our descendants will live in a better world?
Um, you know, I'm not sure what it is that keeps me hopeful, but I am hopeful. And I think the reason why I am hopeful is because I know that from my own standpoint, there's going to be education. There's going to be acceptance. There's going to be a lot of these things that I think most people aren't being taught at home at an early age, or at least didn't used to be taught at home. I think that the newer generation, kind of us, I would say like millennials and Gen Zs, are more accepting than any generations before. We just understand better. Um, and so I would hope that that group of people, knowing that those people will be the ones in charge,
Hmm,
leads to a better education system like we've talked about, or leads to just a better understanding of the world.
absolutely. I actually have like a follow-up question. You're a filmmaker. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if I said that at the beginning, y'all, but Andrew Mott is going to be like one of like the next biggest filmmakers. And what is something that you would like to see in like the film industry in regards to uh like protesting and police brutality, because I'm not sure what your perspective would be from like a filmmaker's standpoint compared to like someone that just watches a lot of movies. Um,
Yeah.
so how would you respond to that?
Um, you know, I don't know how you would show police brutality in film, or even as a way to describe it in film, or you know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
think I think one of the best things that I've seen happen lately is more Black representation in film. Um, there, it just seems as if for the first time in Hollywood, there is room for everyone. Um, and maybe that wasn't intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was like directors like Jordan Peele, or actors um, that have put themselves in the room, whether they were invited or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love seeing that. And I love
Yeah.
seeing that type of representation. Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm all for that, because those actually are what I view as more artistic films. There's more
Mm-hmm.
meaning behind them. There's just more substance. One
Mm-hmm.
thing that I can think of as an example, because you said police brutality, is the movie Queen and Slim.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Amazing movie. It was probably one of my favorite movies of last year. I'd say it's my top three of last year.
Okay.
Um, and they showed police brutality, but they took a turn on it, right?
Yes.
But there
They.
there was
Yeah.
about to be like a showing of police brutality,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
but they took a turn on it. And then later in the movie, I don't know if like you noticed it, but
Yep.
again, at the end of the movie, what happened? police brutality.
Okay. Right. Right.
They were killed by the police.
Mm-hmm.
And so it I don't know how you took it, but the way that I took it was almost unavoidable for them.
Mm.
And I felt like that was a deep meaning in the film that a lot of people didn't pick up on.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the director is Lena Waithe. I love her.
Mhm.
Deaf. She's amazing. But kind of dive into that a little bit. Like, what do you mean? Like, it was like inevitable?
Well, I think I mean, that was part of the film, right? I mean, it was, first of all, how do we sell, you got to think about it from a business perspective. How are we going to sell tickets to white people, right? Oh,
Okay.
it's right. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, that's probably the audience that they're trying to get, like,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
go to this movie. So they get them in the door by saying, "Oh, it's a modern day version of Bonnie and Clyde," right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and am I wrong?
No, you're
And so,
right.
they get you in the seat, right? And then you start seeing, I think, people who are, and that's what it is. That's what the movie was to people who are not, I would say, woke, or I would say culturally intelligent.
Yeah,
Um, but
aware, informed.
aware, right? And so, but to people who actually listen and who actually pay attention, there's so much more meaning in the film. There's, I mean, you can think about it. There was going to be police brutality. They avoided it, right? He ended up killing the officer. Now they're on the run, and then ultimately they're killed by police officers, but they were turned in by another black man who wanted the money. Like, it's such a vicious cycle, and I think
Mm,
that that's what the director wanted to represent,
mm-hmm.
because it was an eye-opening event, and I think you obviously saw that
Yep.
because that applies to you more than anybody, and I saw that because I am aware, and and I viewed that as very artistic and very powerful. um and that's why I enjoyed it so much. But that's also why I enjoyed the films like that I was talking about with Jordan Peele, like Us and Get Out and things. Like, there's deeper meanings to this. Like, when you watch them, you can watch for the surface level movie, which always is good, but you can watch it for the deeper meaning as well, and then actually take away some takeaways from it.
Oh man, there's so many movies like that now. You were talking about making, well, not necessarily making a seat at the table for African Americans in Hollywood, but it kind of like they have to come to the table because of their influence, because of their
Right.
success. You know what I mean? And I want to shout out people like Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, um, um, Spike Lee. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
John
Yep.
Singleton. Like these people like really paved the way for people like
For
um
sure.
Michael B. Jordan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you also, like, how do I ask this question? Yo, interviewing is tough because you gotta like ask a question in a way. Um,
Yeah.
um, like, kind of talk talk to us about like when you found out about like what like systematic racism was and what white supremacy is.
Mhm. When I found out,
Like, was it like
um,
a moment when you found out? Did you read about it? Somebody tell you about it?
no, I think one of the bigger eye-opening things was, I think I think one of the biggest eye-opening things is police brutality as a whole, because it's been going on for so long that, you understand that me as a white male, like, although I have never came from a privileged life, I have privilege. And understanding that police brutality isn't necessarily anything that I will ever experience or have to fear for.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that I realized that probably at a younger age, um,
Mhm.
but just due to the environment that I grew up in. I mean, because we came from the same place.
Yeah.
So like I was around African American culture early and often. Um, and so I saw a lot of stuff that opened my eyes. One
Mhm.
of one of my best friends, uh, who is African American, like he wouldn't get the same benefit of the doubt as I would if we both
Mhm.
got in trouble for the same thing. That
Mhm.
was like the earliest like eye-opening experience, I think. So for I guess for a better example is like we were both doing stuff we shouldn't have been doing, just messing
Mhm.
around, right? Things like that.
Mhm.
Like we weren't doing anything that was going to harm anybody or anything like that, right?
Right, right, right.
But but the cops were called and involved, and because he was African American,
Mhm.
there was a higher threat factor for the people involved, I guess, because people said, I mean, the lady who called the cops was scared. And then the police officers were scared. But it's like, to me, it was just me and my boy. Like,
Right.
what is there to be scared of? It's just us messing around being kids, right?
Mhm.
But there was that fear of like, he's a black man, as they say, right? And
Mhm.
so it was very eye opening to see that like they viewed him as a bigger threat than I was because of his skin color.
Okay, this is like my last question for real, for
Okay,
real.
all right.
Like I was raised in like the Baptist church, and if you know anything about Baptist churches, like the preacher will say like I'm almost done. He really not be almost done yet.
Yeah.
um, before I go on like my last like salutation, I want to ask you, you know, well, let me preface this by saying that you've been on this, I would say, uh, growth in your spirituality. And I'm gonna ask you this question, but you can take this question however you want. This is not even like a scripted question. Um,
Okay.
what role does religion, like your religion or your spirituality, play in justice?
Mm. That's a tough question. Um, what does that play in justice? Um, you know, I think the simple question, and I hope it doesn't sound like, I mean, I think the simple answer, and I hope it doesn't sound like a cop out, is that most people would base their religious beliefs or their spiritual beliefs um, on morals.
Hmm.
And so I would say that the effect that that has on justice is it comes down to morality. What you believe is right and what you believe is wrong. So somebody who obviously is spiritual will be against robbing people and murdering and treating people unfairly because they would believe that everybody is equal as one of God's children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody who isn't spiritual may not have the same morals as somebody who does. And I'm not saying that as a way to say that if you don't believe in God, you don't have morals. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that religion oftentimes ties to morality. And you're
Mm-hmm.
taught that often in churches and things like that. So that
Mm-hmm.
probably has a role in justice.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say this at the end of the podcast while you guys are listening to the end of the podcast. That I've been saying this consistently, that our obligation on this earth is to advocate and to protest. And the reason why I say that is because of three reasons. One reason is because I believe firmly that we have a spiritual obligation, just as people that are all like children of God. We're like, we have a spiritual obligation. And like me being Christian, like I believe that like Christians definitely do. And it's because that's like, I believe in like Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ
Mhm,
had, he was revolutionary his whole life. Like his like whole ministry was revolution. And uh he really like fought to bring um free the false. I mean, he was falsely accused. He was falsely accused and put on the tree and lynched.
mhm,
Like, and he was beaten and everything. Even like when he first came to like the synagogue, and he had just ran up in there, he was like at the beginning of his ministry, my man's was like, I he said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and I came to preach the gospel. And he was like, and then he said, I came to speak to the captives and to the poor and to
mhm,
the widow and to the strange. Like he had came to really speak to those who are oppressed, to bring liberation. So
mhm.
he was like a revolutionary in his own right, according to my Bible.
Right.
I believe that like Christians definitely do, but even kind of more generally, people who have I would say a moral compass, or people that are in tune with their moral compass. Like I do believe that like all human beings have a moral compass. Like whether or not people want to like bury them or whatever, all of us have some compass as to morality. But um, I believe that because of that, like because of our religion, our spirituality, we have an obligation, first of all. Second of all, I believe that as citizens of a country, not just as citizens of like America or USA, but just citizens of a country, we have a duty to advocate for those who are less fortunate, who are oppressed, to people who have or who are disenfranchised, people who are attacked for 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 immoral and inhumane and unjust reasons. Um, and so my last point, my third one is a moral obligation, and I believe on like a humanity standpoint, we have an obligation to fight for those who um who are just treated unfairly around the world. Just as human beings, I believe that
Mhm,
like human beings are supposed to care about other human beings. And I believe that like innately, like babies care about other babies. Like it don't matter what language the baby speaks or the baby's parents speak. It doesn't matter like what skin color the baby is. Babies really
mhm.
care about other babies, and I think that we
Yeah.
taught division, and I think that we need to get back to that loving and caring and moral nature that babies have. And so,
Right.
you know, religious and spiritual aspect, the civil aspect, like as far as us being civilized creatures in a particular country, and then also a moral aspect. Um,
Yeah.
I think that you gave a really like a lot of great points. nobody has come up here and really talked about the police force and police reform, and what you would like to see done in the police training uh, process as deeply and as rigorously as you did on this podcast. I really do appreciate that. I
Mhm.
appreciate you coming on here and just, speaking your truth and, sharing some of your experiences and everything. And I'm excited, for your future, with you and your fiance, and with you and your film endeavors. Um, I have a friend named Josh, I have a friend named Jordan that are also film directors, but I think that like I probably talk to you the most. So I know that like you're very creative, you're excellent at really, getting other people's perspectives, and you've also been growing
Mhm.
so much, not just spiritually, but also in your academics. And I think that
Yeah.
when you went to Weber State, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you went to Weber State, I think that that really opened your eyes to like the media world, more so than CSN did. And so I think that like Weber State really like is giving like it really gave you that spark. And I think it was Tupac Shakur that said that somebody giving you the spark and you not doing anything with it is is a curse, so I believe that like people that are given like that ignition and given that spark and don't do anything with that are people
Mhm.
that are really like not fulfilling their full potential, you know what I mean? And I think that you're fulfilling your full potential in this moment, doing the best that you can with what you have, staying optimistic, staying positive, but also um realizing the actual realities of people who are oppressed and marginalized and are affected by white supremacy and injustice and racism
Yeah.
and things like that. And and
Yeah.
um and so I thank you for getting on this podcast, man. How can people reach you?
You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. It's at Andrew Too True. Um, and then yeah, check out the YouTube. It's just Andrew Mott on YouTube. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
that.
man.
But
Hey.
yeah,
Check out my intro.
if you yeah, that's I mean, I like doing this type of stuff, man. I like talking. I like picking people's minds. So um yeah, if you want to see stuff like that, that's on there too. But
Okay, awesome. Yeah, hey, follow my man Andrew Ma on YouTube. I didn't even know that. All right, and
yeah,
yo, y'all can like and like just subscribe if you want to like see more stuff about like this, but like, and you can like for like the YouTube algorithm, and you can like give like a rating on like the platforms for like so like more people will like see, but and like that's cool. I like that stuff. What's more important to me is leave a comment for Andrew or reach out to Andrew on his social media and like tell him how much you was impacted by his his insight, his teaching, um, his ideas. That's very important, man, and especially as like men, like I don't know what it is about America, but or like about the society now, but like I can't tell like my brother like I love you, but like my sister can tell her girlfriends, or like her like friend girls or whatever that like she loves them. You know what I'm saying? So like, especially if you're like a dude and you were impacted by Andrew stuff, give him his props, man. Like real talk, give him his props. Even though he's like a white male, like doesn't mean that he's just like invincible. You know what I'm saying? Like he goes through emotions and all that too. You know what I mean? So he will like greatly appreciate you, uplifting him and and he deserves that, because most, well, I can't say most, a lot of white people don't want to even listen to black people, you know what I mean? And I think that, Andrew's been doing it. So it's not like he's doing it because it's popular. Andrew has been listening to black people and he's seen things happen in front of him, like him and his friend, when like they were playing around and like they didn't give like the
Same treatment.
police didn't give his friend the benefit of the doubt as much as they
Yeah.
gave Andrew the benefit of the doubt, and he had got different treatment. Exactly, Andrew. And so, yeah, man. Hey, if you comment on this video, you can like or whatever and comment and like say like the video was cool. But what's more important is reaching out to Andrew. Reach out to Andrew and tell him that like you love him, you support him, you care for him, because that's what I do. All right. Thank y'all.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank y'all for watching. Don't you hate it when like your like computer says, "Hey, I'm ready for an update"? It's like, weren't you
Not
ready for
yet.
an update? You're like always ready for an update. Like I'm not ready for the
Yeah.
update.
Yeah.
But thank y'all for listening, man. Do you have any final words, Andrew?
No, actually there's one thing that I was thinking about, just kind of when you were summing up your last 3 points. But yeah, I just wanted to also say and kind of clarify that, you don't have to be religious to be spiritual, and you don't have to be either to have good morals. At the end of the day, I think you said it the best. We need to care for people as people. And I think that's the bigger message here. And you know, some people take that as all lives matter. Right. True. Nobody's saying they don't. Right now, we're focused on Black Lives Matter because there is racial injustice in America, and it's a real problem that we need to solve.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's just the starting point. Just look at every word. Black lives matter. Like just them mattering, like matter.
Right.
I'm not saying
Right.
Black lives are like supreme or Black lives are more important or only Black lives. We're just saying that they matter. That's all we're saying.
Right.
And time and
Like
time,
this shouldn't be a debate.
it
Like
shouldn't
this
even be a
should not
debate.
be a debate.
It shouldn't even be a debate. Like all lives can't matter if Black lives don't matter. Like it's like basic logic. Like it's like philosophy 101. Like it's just basic logic, basic understanding. And so my thing is, you know, that's just like the starting point. And
Hey, bro, I think your mic stopped for a second.
oh, hello.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's just a starting point. We just want our lives to just matter. After like that's the thing. All we're asking is for our lives to be mattered by people first. Because
And
how can you see somebody's value or see somebody else as another
as less.
or as less, you know what I'm saying? But like how can you act justly towards a being that you don't see on like the same level as you? You know, you're like people are dehumanizing Black lives. People are like using words like monster and vigilant and things like that toward Black people, even when we're complying, even when we're sleeping
Mhm.
in our own home, even when we're running or jogging like our own neighborhood. Like literally, like even when we're like going to the store and getting Skittles and coming back home, like Skittles in like Arizona, come back,
Yeah.
like literally Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her own house and they ran up in her house and killed her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so literally, even so, like, my thing is that, yeah, I mean, there are so many things that we need to do to like change the hearts and minds of those who feel this way and feel like that it's okay to disregard the Black Lives Matter points and the Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter ideals and like the reasons why we even shout Black Lives Matter. Um, and um, there's also institutional change that needs to happen, like like the police reform that you was talking about,
Mm.
police reform that they was talking about, the education reform and educational funding. I think that uh, religion and spirituality, I think a lot of times go hand in hand. I mean, like I don't think that like they're like interchangeable. So I don't think that every protest is a riot. and I don't think every ride is a process. I think like those are like two different things.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that religion, like every religion, doesn't have the same understanding of spirituality, and like spirituality is not really embedded necessarily in every religion the same way.
Right.
So uh I I liken the idea of spirituality when you was explaining it to a moral compass, because I think more
Hmm.
people understand what a moral compass is. And it's just as human beings, we are obligated to see other people not as property, not as dollar signs, not as three-fifths of a human being, not as okay, what can you contribute to the economy? But it's bigger
Hmm.
than that. Nobody like a life is more important, it's more valuable than $20 or $200 or $2 million. A life is invaluable. It don't matter if it's a black life, a white life, Hispanic life. And we're putting emphasis on black lives because those are the lives that are being dehumanized, and we want our humanity back,
Yes.
because it was stolen from us, and we've been stolen from like the land where we had our humanity. And so
Right.
that's why we're frustrated, because we're not depicted as, we're not seen as, we're not treated as human beings. And
Right.
that's why we're saying, look, all we want is for our lives to matter. That's like the base. That's like the minimum. We're not
Yeah.
asking y'all to love us or to like act civilly. The civil rights movement was like just for civilization. You have to think the LGBTQIA plus community is asking for equal rights. We're not even asking for that. We're just asking for us to matter.
Right.
Like asking for us to matter. That's the dichotomy. The LGBTQIA plus community is saying we want the same everything. We want the same we want equal treatment. Black people are like right now, well, like the Black Lives Matter movement are like, we're like just like, look, we're not even looked at as human beings. Like we're not even looked at as human. So now on top of that, you have like the high percentage of Black people being killed by policemen are Black people who are gender nonconforming and that are queer and people of the LGBTQIA plus community. So like being Black and in that community is like an even higher percentage or a higher likelihood of you suffering from police brutality and injustice and things like that. Um,
Mm.
but like we talked about earlier, it's really embedded in a lot of things that need to be addressed and sometimes abolished and rebuilt. And some of those things include the process of becoming a police officer,
Yeah.
and also our educational process. I will also include
Mhm.
like the prison industrial complex, like the medical pharmaceutical companies and things like that. How and how a Facebook and Google uses facial recognition and sells it to police departments, and like those are practically racist, basically. Like they're like racist engines. Um, like it's like any Black face will like look like the person who committed the crime, whatever. So, but anyway,
Mhm.
those are 4 institutions in America that need to be changed.
Mhm.
Andrew, this was a wonderful conversation. Y'all got like extra content.
Yeah.
But we love y'all. We appreciate it. Tell Andrew that like you love him, you support him, and that you care for him, and that you're excited for his future, and that he's gonna be like a wonderful filmmaker and probably a interviewer too, because I miss Andrew. I miss Real Talk with Andrew Mott. So
Thank you.
hopefully like he gets back to that. All right.
Yeah.
Much love, y'all. Peace.
All right, man.